This Saturday, March 29th at 7:30 p.m. at St. Andrews River Heights United Church, Virtuosi Concerts presents the fabulous Toronto-based pianist Luke Welch in a concert called Northern Magnolias. Welch will take to the stage for an evening dedicated to the music of two groundbreaking Black composers, Samuel Coleridge-Taylor and Robert Nathaniel Dett. Both composers whose works Welch has passionately explored and recorded, and whose music has long been overlooked due to racial and social attitudes of their time. This performance shines a well deserved spotlight on their remarkable piano music. For those unfamiliar with Luke Welch, he is a highly acclaimed Canadian pianist currently serving on the piano faculty at York University. Recognized for his captivating performances across Canada, the United States, Europe, and New Zealand, Welch is a graduate of Western University with further studies done in Rotterdam. His performances have graced prestigious venues, including the Beethoven Haus in Bonn, Germany, and St. Martin in the Fields in London. And joining me here over Zoom to talk about his upcoming concert for Virtuosi, I am joined by Luke Welch. Hey, Luke, great to have you here.
Hey, Chris, nice to meet you. It's great to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Mhm. So, firstly, I want to just ask about how this collaboration came about. Did you reach out to Virtuosi for the concert, or did Virtuosi reach out to you? And if Virtuosi reached out to you, how did they know about you?
I believe I reached out to Virtuosi. I've played in Manitoba twice in the past few years. Both times have actually been in Carmen, Manitoba.
Hmm.
And it's only because now recently I've been promoting these new composers that you mentioned, Samuel Coleridge-Taylor and our Nathaniel Dett, that I thought that might be a sort of program of interest to sort of promote not only to Canadian audiences, but certainly for Winnipeg and those folks around there as well.
Hmm. For the month of February, your recording of the music of Robert Nathaniel Dett was our CD of the month. I watched the video that you did with Nolan. And am I right? These two projects, the music of Robert Nathaniel Dett and Samuel Coleridge Taylor, came as a result of the pandemic. Is that right?
That is absolutely correct. What essentially had happened was that when the pandemic hit, I was sort of, yeah, like a lot of musicians, I was sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place in terms of all my performances being canceled, having not really much to do, but having so much time to do it,
Mhm.
so to speak. Um, so what had happened was that I actually would once a month turn on my Facebook live feed and do little living room concerts called Music from Home. So I would introduce a different composer or a different sort of genre, different era of classical music. And so, the first few months rolled by easily enough. I had certainly enough repertoire up my sleeves. And not thinking, that we're going to be in this for several years as opposed to several months. So after about month 10 or 11, I was thinking, okay, well, I'm sort of running low on ideas here. What can I do? And I had a teacher at Western from some years ago who had always sort of pushed me to learn sort of music from outside the box, not just the mainstream Beethoven, Chopin, Mozart
Mhm.
type things. He was introducing me to a lot of French music and Spanish composers and stuff. So I was thinking, maybe I could do one of these sorts of things, or maybe something. And then it was literally a light bulb moment where I was like, well, what about Black composers? Something that I can sort of identify with. Didn't know anything about them and did a little bit of a deep dive. And that's when I came across first Samuel Coleridge Taylor's music. And then later on, Robert Nathaniel Dett's music. And the rest is history, as they
It's
say.
history, yeah. Uh, I've listened to both of your CDs. They're fantastic. The music is so full of colors and there's these wonderful contrasting characters. When learning and studying this music, what was it about this music that really stuck a chord with you? Excuse the pun.
It was, and thank you very much for listening to them, and I appreciate it. The first thing that happened was that when I opened this book, it had four different composers in them, and when I played, it was the very first valse by Samuel Coleridge Taylor's from a 3/4 valse suite. There's six of them, and when I played through it, I was like, the melodies are a bit unusual. The harmonies are completely unlike anything I've heard before, and the harmonic progressions, but somehow it sort of makes sense, even though,
Mm.
I was thinking he's going to zig, but he sort of zags, but it still somehow kind of had a bit of cohesion to it. So I started playing the second one and the third one, and I was like, hey, this guy is actually kind of out there, but it really sort of resonated with me. And so some of the other sort of neighbors and other people that could hear me practicing, they were like, what on earth is that? There's literally a lady that was walking down the street outside my house and left me a note when I had my window open while I was practicing. And it was just like, this music is amazing. I don't know what it is. Can you email me and let me know? So
Yeah.
that's when I thought, okay, this could be really something cool, you know? And that's how that one took off. So the Coleridge-Taylor one was sort of like a breath of fresh air that came over me. I thought I knew everything about everything, but he sort of introduced me to something new. And then when I started going deeper into his music, that's when I came across our Nathaniel Dett, because I was thinking, well, are there any sort of Canadian local boys who also are along these lines? And that's when I realized that the two of them are connected in many ways, as a lot of the Black composers are. And
Mm.
again, he was completely of a different musical language, but very relatable to my ears and to the people around me. Very pianistic, so it fits under the fingers really well. But again, sort of music that didn't quite it always kind of kept me on my toes and always kind of left me wondering how he came up with a lot of these ideas. So that's what all sort of seemed to stream together in a way.
Mm. Samuel Coleridge-Taylor, he was English. He was a student of Charles Villiers Stanford. And there's a CD that the National Ensemble put out, and in the booklet they said that one of Coleridge-Taylor's favorite composers was Dvorak. Do you hear these influences of Stanford and Dvorak in Samuel Coleridge-Taylor's music? And would you classify him as sort of a romantic-esque composer?
He is romantic-esque, but the influence actually went the other way around. That
Mm.
Coleridge-Taylor influenced a lot of Dvorak's music later on.
Ah.
um, because and the relation between the two is that Coleridge-Taylor really was impressed how Dvorak was able to come up with a lot of nationalistic idioms.
Mhm.
And that was something that really inspired Samuel Coleridge-Taylor. Like, yes, a big part of his influence was about sort of preserving African and African American idioms and the musical language and the slave songs and things like that. But he also loved composers who, unlike Mozart and other sort of traditional composers who were writing great music, he loved the composers who were really looking to their sort of heritage and the grassroots and sort
Mhm.
of codifying their not only their personal music but also music from within their traditions. And that's what inspired Coleridge-Taylor, and that's how him and Dvorak really became linked. Him and Brahms. Edvard Grieg in Norway was another composer that he was really inspired by, because
Mm.
they were always really about identity as much as it was about the
And,
music.
and the folk music elements in their much of their music as well, right?
That's absolutely right. That's
Hmm.
absolutely right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Later on in Coleridge-Taylor's career, and this is something I find fascinating, he traveled to the United States and he met W.E.B. Du Bois, and he also heard some African American spirituals. Do you think his music changed as he got older?
It did. It did. I mean, he had a lot of influences. I know when he was like studying um, at the Royal College of Music in England, it was a lot about the sort of exploration of Eurocentric music and how
Mm.
to sort of learn how to properly notate and come up with harmonic progressions and all the fun stuff that we learn in keyboard harmony and in our theory and composition classes when we're
Yeah,
studying.
yeah.
But it was when he went to the States, and first of all, he had seen the Fisk Jubilee singers who sort of hit him with that style of music. And then he was also realizing that not only was there sort of traditions from the African sense, and his father was African from Sierra Leone. So he
Hmm.
was really spending his early years trying to wrap his mind and his music around that sort of style. But when he came to the States and realized that there was that second lineage of African American music, and that sort of, now hundreds years or hundreds plus years worth of music and history to explore, then he was meeting people like Harry T. Burley, who was also trying to codify the plantation music, plantation songs and stuff like that. That it just hit him again in another way, and he realized he had so much more work to do and had so much more inspiration in his musical writing as well.
Hmm. Hmm. The other composer on Saturday's program is Robert Nathaniel Dett, and I was reading about him, and apparently, and you alluded to this earlier, apparently his music is influenced by the music of Samuel Coleridge-Taylor. Is that right?
Absolutely. If you, I mean, I don't want to try to tone down the depth of it all. But if we think in this sort of classical music pyramid of everything, sort of the new classical work, starting with J.S. Bach, and then it's influencing Mozart and Beethoven and Chopin, and everyone sort of looks to him as being the sort of godfather of Western classical music.
Yeah.
Samuel Coleridge-Taylor became that for a lot of Black composers. So when you have people like Florence Price and R. Nathaniel Dett and Harry Burleigh and this new wave of Black composers coming through, they looked at
Mhm.
Coleridge-Taylor as that guy, as that source of inspiration, the first guy to go out there and stick his neck out to try to not only be validated as a competent musician and a competent composer, but also that the musical language and that the importance and significance of Black music as well as Black classical music had relevance not only to Black people but also to everyone else as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, One of the other things I took away from the earlier conversation that you did with Nolan was when you were learning the music, you realized that there were errors in the parts. There's a couple questions here. One, where did you get the parts from? Like, where do you actually get the music from? And then how did you go about fixing the errors in the scores?
Well, that's it depends how much time you have to give me like a proper answer. But the quickest response I can give is that when it came to Coleridge-Taylor's music, it took me almost 2 years to find even the program of stuff that I wanted to learn. I had to go on eBay. I had to go through all and Etsy, all sorts of back channels. I had to Google,
Wow.
deep dive all over the place, just finding random people who would have something in their basement and emailing totally people out of the blue trying to
Yeah.
piece together this music. And then what is even more astounding is that looking back at it now, that was the easy part because finding R. Nathaniel Dett's music was even harder.
Oh.
It really has taken me a long, long time to find original scores. A lot of them are just they're no longer in print. So you have to find people who are just cleaning out their warehouse or cleaning out their basement and just trying to find as much information as possible. In terms of the errors, it seems like that seems to be a common theme through all of the Black composers. Um, when it came to Coleridge-Taylor's music, something was written one way, and then you would look at something else, and it, you know, accidentals were missing. There's a sharp missing here when it should be
Mhm.
flat or up, up. And with R. Nathaniel Dett's music, it was the same. There would be individual scores and a collection, and the two of them would have the same music, but they're not written the same way.
Yeah, yeah.
Florence Price, the same. Her piano concerto I played last year for the first time. And they give you an orchestral reduction, so it's two piano scores, and then they give you a single edition just for piano alone. And even though they're from the same publisher, published at the same time, those even have errors in them.
Mm.
So I think once I have a little bit more free time, what I'm planning to do, and I've been in contact with some publishers, is to sit down, rewrite them all with a sort of clear edition with using sort of manuscripts from different libraries as well as scores that I have in my own collection, and actually
Mm.
putting together a more definitive and hopefully more accurate version of the scores themselves.
Hmm. It's interesting you mentioned Florence Price. A little while ago, Rachel Barton Pine, the violinist, was here performing for Virtuosi. It was like 3 weeks ago or something. And I interviewed her a couple of years ago. She recorded Florence Price's violin concerto, and she said the exact same thing. It was loaded with errors. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
just
unfortunate. And the thing is, when I actually contacted the publisher to say something about it, and I tried to say it in the nicest way possible because it's nice that they even offer these collections at all,
mm,
no response. So it's
really.
almost like they seem to be satisfied with just the fact that it's out there, and then it's just up to us to figure it out and deal with it.
Uh,
And basically, too
mm,
bad, so sad, But
yeah.
hopefully, one day they'll take it a little bit more seriously, and we can actually have something a little bit more definitive for other people who want to study that music too, because they may not be able to detect the errors right away.
Right, 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 right. You've been living with this music for a while now. Have you found that your interpretation has changed from the recording to doing recitals?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't really listen to my recordings often. Like once they're sort of out, once I've heard them and they're good to go, then I leave them for the public to listen to and I leave them alone. But every now and again, I'll go back and listen to a few pieces just to sort of get re-inspired, or maybe there's something that I did back then that I didn't do that, and the playing style is completely different.
Mm,
um I mean, I think there's two reasons for that. Part of it is because um it's easier to let the music breathe when the more it's in you, and the more familiar you are with it, the easier it is to sort of relax and let the music speak for itself, instead of just trying to give like a really clean and inspired version. You can just sort of let it soak in and then offer it a little bit more generously.
mm,
And I think part of it too is that just us as human beings, as well as musicians, we change over time. We evolve as people. So just our personality, our outlook changes too. So what we may do today, or what we may find entertaining or inspiring, changes. So it's never hopefully going to be the same over time. Yeah.
mm. Uh, I want to ask, what are you looking forward to most about performing here on Saturday night? This music.
I'm looking forward to everything. Jennifer Thiessen is a phenomenal individual. I cannot wait to meet her. Every time I've gone to Manitoba to perform, the audiences I've met and the people I've met are just fantastic people. They took a very big risk when I was there a few years ago, hearing some of the repertoire I was playing then. So I am very much an admirer of the fact that they are risk takers in terms
Mm,
of wanting to sort of come and listen to music that they may not necessarily know. So
yeah.
offering something like Coleridge-Taylor and someone like our Nathaniel Dett, I think is great music, and I'm excited to be able to offer that music to the audiences of Winnipeg. I'm very, very excited for that.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. It's wonderful stuff. I have to say, one of the things that I'm really interested about is what's your next recording project going to be? Is it going to be music of Florence Price, or is it going to be maybe some William Grant Still or some William Levi Dawson? What do you have in
That's a good
mind?
question. I have been sitting down with it now. I I will be I'll be honest with you, because I was going to try to keep it a secret, but since you asked so nicely, I will indulge a bit. So there is actually this website that I found, who is actually just coming out with a complete collection of all of the solo piano works of Joseph Bologna.
Oh, Chevalier de Saint George.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's never been released before. Most people, they've spent years apparently putting this project together. It's coming out in three collections. I've got the first two. The third one, I'm literally refreshing my internet
Ah,
every minute just to see when it's going to come out to get it. So there will be some of those pieces on there. I will also include likely some Florence Price, because I haven't recorded any of her music yet.
mm,
Um, and I do believe that I'm going to also play expand more on Coleridge-Taylor, and I also will likely record some music by Harry T. Burley as well, because his music, there is some music that of course, he's a singer, so most of his stuff is vocal music, but he did release some stuff for piano, so I think I'm going to include that on the album as well.
oh, fantastic. Luke, this has been so wonderful to meet you. I know you got to go get out of here to teach, but thanks so much for taking the time to sit down and chat with me today. I'm planning on being at the concert, and I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. Thanks again. Thanks for spending your time
Thank you
with me.
so much for having me, Chris. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to meeting you on Saturday and performing for the wonderful audiences of Winnipeg.
Mm. For our Classic 107 listeners, Luke Welch's concert, Northern Magnolias, as presented by Virtuosi Concerts, takes place this Saturday at 7:30 at St. Andrews River Heights United Church. For more details, visit virtuosiconcerts.ca or go to classic107.com. I have embedded a direct link to the show page in the article about the concert you can find up there now. Luke, thanks again.
Thank you.